In this lesson, we're going to continue discussing paragraph formatting. If you'd like to follow along, go under your File menu to Open, and in the Working Files folder, go into Chapter number 7 and select Paragraph Rules, and just click Open. Before we begin, let's zoom in a bit on our page. I'm just going to click and drag across the first two columns and go back to my type tool. What exactly are paragraph rules? Well, they're stroked lines that can be above and or below a paragraph. And these lines are actually part of the paragraph formatting. So paragraph rules can be saved as part of a paragraph style. What's really nice about paragraph rules being part of the formatting is, unlike drawn lines, paragraph rules will actually move with the paragraph. So if I were to edit my copy above and delete a paragraph, let's say, the rules will move up with the paragraph. If I add text, the rules will move down with the paragraph. But how do you apply rules? Well, I'm just going to click in this paragraph that's a pull quote. And I could select it, but I find it's easier to see what's going on if you just click in the paragraph. It's paragraph formatting, so it will apply to the entire paragraph. Now I'm going to go into the Options menu of my paragraph panel and go to Paragraph Rules. To start, I have to decide, do I want my rule to be above or below? I'm going to start with above. And the first thing I have to do is turn it on. So I'm going to check Rule On. And you can see it added a rule that's at the baseline of my first line of text in the paragraph. Everything that has to do with type always starts at the baseline and goes up or down from there. The second thing is, how heavy do I want this stroke to be? If I click my up arrow, it's going to get heavier. Why don't I leave it at 2 points? The next question is, what type of a stroke do I want? And there's a stroke pop-up, and I have all of the different types of strokes that are available in my stroke panel. And if I were to choose something other than solid, like, for instance, how about Japanese dots? You'll see that I can add dots to the rule. And once I have any kind of a rule that has gaps, I could add a gap color. Let me do that. Instead of none for gap color, I'm going to choose, how about yellow? So you can see I have a yellow gap between my dots. I could also tint the gap if I want. Maybe I'll go down to 50%. But let me go back. I'm going to make the gap once again, instead of 50%, 100%. And I'm not going to have any gap color. I'm just going to go to none. And I also want the type of stroke to be solid. Let's continue through the settings. The next choice is width. Do you want the width of the stroke to be to the column? Or do you want it to be to the text itself? And you can see when I select text, it's to the width of the text. But let me go back to column. I can also add a left and a right indent. Let me do that. I'm going to click the up arrow 4 times. So it's adding a left indent to this stroke, to this rule of 1/4 inch. Let me select this amount in that field and just copy it, Command-C or Control-C. And now I'm going to hit my Tab key to go to the next field and paste it in. Command-V, Control-V. And let me click someplace else. So I have 1/4 inch indent on either side of the rule. Now, there is another reason that I copied that 1/4 inch, and you'll see why in a little while. But now, offset. What is that about? Well, I really want this rule not on the baseline. I want to offset it further up, above. And because it's a rule above, if I click my up arrow and it starts offsetting it in a positive direction, it's moving up. And I'm going to go to 1/4 inch. So that's pretty much it for my rule above. I also want a rule below. So let me go and select rule below. Check rule on, and you can see I do have a rule that's sitting at the bottom baseline because it is a rule below. I want to make it heavier, so I'm going to click the up arrow next to weight. And now I'm going to offset it. And I'm going to click my up arrow, and I'm doing this by eye. The reason why I'm doing it by eye is the offset for rule above, let me just go there, rule above, is going to be totally different. It's a 1/4 inch for rule above. But if I go to rule below, it's totally different. It's only 1/8 of an inch for the offset. Why is that? Well, it's because everything starts at the baseline. A rule above starts at the baseline of the first line of text in the paragraph and goes up from there. So if I wanted my rules, top and bottom, to look the same distance from the type as each other, the rule above is always going to have a greater offset because first it has to start at the baseline and clear the type. And then it's finally above the type. So my rule above is always going to have a greater offset. Let me go to rule below again. And I don't remember what my left and right indent is. So that's really why I copied it. So let me press Command V on a Mac, Control V on a PC, and hit Tab to get to the next field, and press Command V or Control V again. And as soon as I click someplace else, you'll see that I have a pull quote. With complex settings like this for rule above and rule below, the first thing I'm going to do as soon as I click OK is save this as a paragraph style, because it's going to make it a lot easier going forward if I need to use this kind of formatting again. We'll be talking more about paragraph styles in an upcoming lesson. Why don't we do something else with paragraph rules? I'm just going to scroll over a bit, and I have a subhead. Subhead in a rule. This could also be a section divider. What I want to do is drop my type out of a very thick rule. Let's see how we would do that. I'm going to go under my options menu of the paragraph panel to paragraph rules. And I'm going to do a rule below. I'm just going to turn it on. Rule on. I'm going to change the color from the color of the text to some other color that's available. Only colors that are in your swatches panel are available in this pop-up. And that's something you're going to keep hearing me say again and again as we go through various settings in dialog windows and panels. Very important to save your color as swatches, and we'll be talking about that as well in an upcoming lesson. Well, let me make this rule a lot thicker. I'm just going to start clicking up, and you can see it is getting thicker and thicker and thicker. I want to make this rule heavier than my point size of the type. So my point size of the type is 24 points. I want to make this rule 26 points. And I'm just going to click off of it to apply it. And you can see it's really thick. But watch what happens when I offset it. I'm going to start clicking not my up arrow, but my down arrow. If I want to offset a rule below in an upwards direction, it's a negative offset. If it was in the positive direction, rule below will go further down, further below. So I'm using a negative offset, and watch what happens. A little bit too far. Let me instead make this 0.3 and see what happens. Oh, that looks really good. And maybe I'll just leave it like that. And let me show you what I was talking about earlier. If I delete this paragraph, I'm just going to select the paragraph before and hit my delete key. The rule moves with the type. It's part of the formatting. Really cool feature. Why don't we talk about one other kind of paragraph rule? Really, you're limited to your imagination as to how you can use paragraph rules. One of the things that people use a lot is in newsletters or even in a newspaper or a magazine. When a story ends, they'll put a rule underneath the last paragraph to let you know that's the end of the story. So let me go back. With an insert point in this paragraph, I'm going to go under my options menu to paragraph rules. Rule below is fine. I'm going to check rule on, and I have a rule. And I'm going to offset it because it's a rule below. If I use a positive offset, it moves further below. Let me click OK. And this is the way that I could end all of my stories in my newsletter. So if I edit it afterwards, maybe I'll just select some text in here and delete it. You see that the rule moves with it. If I hit Command or Control Z to add that copy back in, the rule moves with the text. Very powerful formatting feature. In the next lesson, we're going to continue discussing paragraph formatting.